All right, now I'll share the screen. All right, Jay, we should be good to go.
All right, thank you. I call this April 9th, 2020 council meeting to order. I'll start with the invocation and pledge. Dear Heavenly Father, thank you for allowing us to come together in spite of all of the things that's going on in the world now. All of these things are making us stronger. They're making us more united. And we pray that you give us additional strength and you watch over everyone that needs that extra strength and to make them better and get through this time. And thank you, Lord, for just giving us that extra stability that we need right now. And in your name, amen.
Amen. Amen. Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag
Flag
of the United States of
States of
America
America.
and to the republic
For which it stands,
One
one
nation,
nation,
under
under
God,
God,
indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, thank you. And Mr. Gilpin, if you can call the roll for us, please.
Ms. Hallfield,
Here.
Ms. Ross,
Here.
Mr. Dunn,
Here.
Ms. Brown,
Here.
Mr. Coogan,
Here.
Ms. Shepherd,
Here.
Mayor Noble.
Here. All right, thank you. Next up is our approval of minutes. We have two sets of minutes here. The first one is our meeting on March 12th of our regular council meeting. I hope that everyone has time to look at those. And if there's any changes or amendments to those, I look for that now.
I move we accept the minutes of March the 12th, 2020 as written.
I'll second that.
Okay, I'm not seeing who's doing what there. Bill, do you got that?
Well, I have Ms. Shepherd on the first, but it cut out on whoever seconded it.
Dawn.
Okay, thank you.
Uh-huh.
Thank you.
And I second that motion in case you needed it to be heard on audio.
Appreciate that.
Uh-huh.
Okay,
Ms.
Ms.
Shepherd.
Hallfield,
Okay, all right, go ahead.
Yes.
Ms. Ross,
Yes.
Mr. Dunn,
Yes.
Ms. Brown,
Yes.
Mr. Coogan,
Yes.
Ms. Shepherd.
Yes.
All right, thank you. And now we move to the second minutes for March 19th, 2020 for our special meeting. If everyone
Motion.
read
Make a
those,
motion that we accept the March 19th, 2020 meeting minutes.
Mr.
I'll
Coog?
second that.
Was that Ms. Shepherd?
Yes, it was.
All right, thank you. Mr. Gilpin, when you're ready.
Ms. Hallfield,
Yes.
Ms. Ross,
Yes.
Mr. Dunn,
Yes.
Ms. Brown,
Abstain.
Mr. Coogan,
Yes.
Ms. Shepherd.
Yes.
All right, thank you. And I don't see any communications this evening, correct?
That's correct.
All right, and then we'll move on to mayor reports. For the month of March 2020, the mayor's court total revenue was $12,896.02, with $10,300.02 to the village, $2,456.50 to the state, and $91.50 to the county. And that takes care of the mayor's report. And then up next would be Mr. Dawson for village administrator.
Okay. For the South Union Street Bridge project, we had a WebEx meeting this week with Cincinnati Bell, Claremont County, and Choice One Engineering. This was initiated by Cincinnati Bell. They had expressed concerns about using a precast structure due to the fact that there will not be room to drop it in place with a crane without the need to move a rather large fiber optic cable, which is there. And that would require a good bit of time and money to move that. So it was discussed and decided that they would engineer that to be a concrete box that would be poured in place instead of precast. That really won't affect the overall cost of the project. It just affects where it's made. So we'll proceed with that. That way Cincinnati Bell will not have to put in a few. They thought it would be a multiple month project of moving that large fiber optic cable. So I think that'll be handled without any further issue. So that should be going out to bid, hopefully, once the engineering is completed. The Northeast Street Stormwater Project, that pre-construction meeting has been postponed, and hopefully that'll occur in early May. Depending on how things progress, we might have to look at doing that via a web meeting as well. The North Charity Street OPWC project is on hold for now. OPWC is funded by two main funding sources. One is the SCIP or SCIP funding, and the other is LTAP. SCIP is funded through the state capital budget, which has not been passed yet. And due to the stay-at-home orders, that there's going to be a delay there. So we will not be able to go out to bid until the state capital bill has been approved for this year. So we'll just have to see how that goes. That is on hold until the capital bill is passed. That may also affect the next round of the OPWC and when that goes out for application. We were fortunate last night not to have really much of any issues as far as power loss. We had 4 residences that lost power total, which was pretty good considering. We did have some large trees come down at the near the entrance to the park next to the tennis courts, and those had to be cleared off the alley. We did have a large tree on the power lines on South Ash Street, but luckily that did not cause any power outages. So things were in our favor. Our crew it was a full night of work for the crew. They started around between 11:30 and midnight and finished at 5:30 this morning. And then we were notified earlier this morning that we had a business that had some power lines down, but they still had power. So we had to disconnect that so that they could make repairs on their side. And they are partially restored, and the electrician is working on that. So I think that is all I have.
All right, thank you. Next up will be our fiscal officer, Mr. Gilpin.
Okay, just a few quick notes on some thoughts on our revenues with, the current situation being what it is. We did receive our real estate tax settlements in the middle of March for the general fund, our street levy, the communications levy, and the police pension. And all of them came in at or slightly over 50% for the first half of the year. So that part came in as we expected. The areas that I'm looking at and a little bit concerned about possible loss of revenue while everything is closed up is, of course, our income tax, local government fund, gas tax revenue, interest rates, and community center rentals. And on those topics, reached out to Rita last week after Mayor and I talked, and they actually got back with me today on what they expect the Village of Bethel, the ramifications to be on our municipal income tax. What they've told me is that the 90-day delay, meaning the July 15th deadline as it is now, they're estimating will result in approximately $40,400 of our money being delayed. We will get it, but it won't be as quick as it was, and that's from personal income tax returns. From corporate income tax returns, they're expecting a $5,600 delay. So those two together are at $46,000. We will get that money. It just will be most likely in the third quarter rather than the second quarter. On the subject of lost revenue, they are estimating that we will lose $3,600 in personal income tax revenue and $4,500 in corporate income tax revenue, for a total of lost revenue of $8,100, which under the circumstances, I thought was a very small number. I was very pleased. I hope those figures are accurate, but that's what we have on that. I've not received any information yet on what to expect. The local government fund, you may or may not recall, is comprised of income tax receipts and sales tax receipts. So I have no expectations that those figures are going to hold up for the state. I don't know if they'll keep with the current formula or need to alter it later this year. We've not heard anything on that. And of course, we all see the price of gas dropping due to low demand. So I am expecting some sort of loss on the gas tax line. Our saving grace may be the fact that the gas tax went up last summer, so we were expecting an additional 50,000 this year compared to years gone by. I don't think we'll lose that much, so I think we'll still gain for the year. I don't expect us to gain the full 50,000 at this point, and we'll keep an eye on that as the receipts come in. Interest rates have been lowered by the Fed, so I expect our short-term investments to bear that as well. So our interest revenue line item may come up a little short for the year. And then lastly, I've issued approximately $1,500 in refunds for community center rentals that were canceled by the village. That we gave them back their total rental fees, and I've not received any new reservations in the last 2 weeks because, of course, nobody knows exactly when it's going to be reopened. I think we have it closed through the first weekend of May, if I remember correctly, and we've refunded all of those folks. So we were way ahead of budget on that line item. So we'll see how quickly that activity bounces back after we can all start getting back to normal. That's everything I've got.
All right, thank you. Next up is our solicitor, Ms. Superintendent.
No report tonight, Mayor.
All right, thank you. Next up will be our Chief of Police, Chief Teague.
Everybody hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay. For March 2020, we drove approximately 2,500 miles. That's down about 20% from our normal mileage. We made 90 traffic stops for the month. We're going to see a significant drop in that in next month's numbers just because of the reduction of traffic stops due to COVID-19. Of those 90 stops, 19 were in the school zone, 22 were for speed, 9 were driving under suspensions, 22 miscellaneous, 2 OVIs. We had 297 calls for service. You'll also see a drop in that next month. Out of those calls for service, we had 30 offenses and 37 incident reports. One of those was assist Claremont County Sheriff's Department with a shooting that happened. A deputy had to actually end up shooting a suspect south of the village. Sergeant Plank was actually first on scene. He missed the driveway and had to come back to the residence, and the deputy came in right behind him and actually confronted the male. We had 1 home B&E. We had 1 resisting arrest that resulted in a tasing, and we had 1 vehicle theft. Out of the vehicle theft, that was recovered approximately 7 days later. We had 5 MVAs. 1 of them was with injuries. There was 8 fire runs in the village, 48 EMS dispatches. We did not respond to most of those calls. We only are responding to the ones that are life and death. We've stopped that practice due to the COVID-19 of responding to all of those. Along the lines of COVID-19, we had 1 gentleman who was a suspect on South Cherry that was a non-breather that I responded to. That gentleman's test has come back as negative, so that's good. We do have 2 positive COVID-19s in our village. 1 is a resident, 1 is not a resident. I won't be releasing any names or addresses. Fire department and police and EMS are all aware of the addresses where those residents are. Speaking of PPE, we were able to obtain yesterday 6 half face masks and filters, which are P100 filters versus N95. N95s are the ones that you guys have seen and talked about a lot in the news lately. Those block out approximately 95% of particulates, and P100s block out approximately 99.7. So it's actually a little bit better filter. Those P100 filters are a little more expensive. They run about $15 a filter. They are good for approximately 40 hours of continual use or up to 30 days, whichever occurs first. We are doing daily EMA briefings with the county and the Department of Health. Those were Monday through Friday. They just changed those yesterday to be Monday, Wednesday, Friday. It's kind of Groundhog Day for us. Every single day, it's kind of the same thing where they're reporting numbers and cases and things. So they've decided to go 3 days a week now. They will add Tuesday and Thursday as needed. We had 2 businesses in the village that were passed along to me for complaints. And then I passed along to the Director of Health for violating the governor's non-essential business. That was Stitch Tech on West Plain Street and Choice Tobacco and Cigarettes on East Plain. Those have been both passed along to the Director of Health, and they are looking into whether those businesses should be open or not. On the 27th, the mayor issued a curfew for adults under 18 between the hours of 8:30 p.m. to 6 a.m. and for anybody over 18 between the hours of 11 p.m. and 6 a.m. So far, we've had about 15 to 20 warnings. We've had no citations. And also on a side note, just for safety, if safety ever comes back around again before our next council meeting, I am researching at the mayor's request some body cameras, their cost and storage. And I'll be getting with Emily and Travis to talk storage capacity and cost and legality of keeping videos and things like that. And the last thing I had at approximately 4:30 today, we had a DOA over at 610 Easter. It was an 85-year-old male, non-COVID-19. It was from natural causes. The officers are over handling that right now. And that is going to be a direct release to the funeral home. It's not going to be a coroner's case. And that's the last thing I had.
All right, thank you. Next up is our Safety Committee Chair, Mr. Coogan.
I have nothing to report at this point in time. My meeting had been canceled due to the COVID scare. I need to schedule a date with the chief, possibly around the 5th of this next month.
Are we want to go ahead and start committee meetings as well, or?
Yeah,
That's up to you all. I think we can use this format for committee meetings.
Okay, well, it's up to you, Mr. Coogan.
Yeah, is the 5th work here?
The 5th of May,
Yes.
it worked for me.
I'm
Okay,
checking.
how about 5:30?
I'm good anytime that day.
Okay. 5th of May at 5:30, so be it.
May 5th at 5:30.
Correct. For
Okay,
safety.
thank you.
Okay.
All right. Anything else, Mr. Coogan?
No, sir.
All right, thank you. Next up is our Finance Committee Chair, Ms. Shepherd.
We also did not meet due to the COVID-19 pandemic. So if we want to set a meeting, Bill, if it's okay with you, we'll just do one at 6:30 on May the 5th.
You can do that.
Will that work with everyone?
What date was that, Lucy?
May the 5th at 6:30. It's a Tuesday.
That works.
Okay. All right, then we'll have that May the 5th at 6:30 in council chambers. And that's all I have.
That'll be on Zoom, probably.
Yes. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm so used to saying in council chambers.
Yeah,
On,
Virtual council chambers.
yes.
okay. I'm sorry.
All right. Okay, so next up would be Parks and Village Properties, Mr. Dunn.
We've had no meeting, and at this point, I don't see a need for one immediately unless somebody's got something that I'm not aware of.
No,
Okay, we'll hold off on that one then until we absolutely need one.
Okay, all right, thank you, sir. And next up is Burke Trust, Miss Ross.
I just have two things briefly. I spoke with Travis earlier. The first thing is regarding scholarships and what we wanted to do about them, if we wanted to either delay the process or try to just steam on board. My personal opinion, I mean, it's up for council, of course, is that we wait to hear what the school is going to do and then make a determination based on how the school is going to proceed for the rest of the school year. I think it might be easier in delaying it once we know what their format for graduation will be in order to have that process.
I think that sounds good with me.
Okay.
I agree with
Anyone-
that.
Okay.
So should I go ahead and send the applications to be distributed to the seniors and just leave the dates open-ended and that they'll be notified that they need to go ahead and, I guess, apply by, well, we can set the deadline to apply and then I can
Well-
notify those who've applied.
What was the deadline initially to apply?
Generally, it's the first week of May. And then we meet on the Monday after our council meeting in May.
Why don't we move it to say like the middle of May, like May 15th, and then we can kind of go from there. And if we,
Okay.
I mean, I don't know about everybody else. My schedule's kind of open right now because of everything going on. So if we needed to meet even virtually, we could do that as well.
That's
I
that's
w-
thinking that we could at least have virtual interviews with the seniors if we can at least get some on board to apply.
Yes, I think the application still needs to go out.
Yeah, so I'll send the application out with the deadline to apply for
Okay.
May 15th. Let's see, May
I
15th.
don't know
Now
what the
that's a
day is.
Friday. Yeah, that's a Friday, so that will work. And then I'll just put that everything after that is open and that they'll be notified to schedule interviews.
Are
Okay.
we just going to be okay with just not, say that for some crazy chance graduation does go as planned on the 20th? We're just not going to be able to announce who received the scholarship that night, so they will just find out after graduation.
I'm not really sure what other option we have. Do you have, I mean, if you know, we should hear something, we can meet again. We can call like a virtual emergency meeting once we hear what the school's plan is. And we can kind of go from there, unless you wanted to move the date up to like May 7th. And then, I mean, we can move it up a week or,
Yeah,
I'm-
what's the scheduled graduation date?
May 20th.
So yeah, I mean, if we made the applications due by May 8th, that would be the Friday before.
And
Okay.
I believe that all of those students should be checking emails and things of that nature. And they were well aware of scholarships and the advisors can send out things to those seniors. I mean, there is a way that they could probably start working on that. I understand possibly the need to give them maybe another week instead of the first week in May. But just in case we have graduation.
no,
I just want to give them that opportunity and give us the opportunity to be able to interview them.
yes, and I'm completely okay with that. So May 8th would be good. That's a month. That gives me
Okay,
30.
yeah. And then we'll just have to have the interviews that following week. And if it's virtual, it's virtual, or we can push it off by that point, because we should know by the beginning of May what the school's gonna do, but nobody knows right now.
Exactly. Okay, I think I'm better for whatever that Friday is before that. Is that the 8th?
That's the
Yeah.
8th, yes.
Okay, let's do the 8th then, if everyone else on council is good with that. That way we can still kind of work within the parameters that we have.
That sounds good.
Okay.
Thank you.
I have one other thing real quick is the community grant. Travis and I touched briefly on this earlier. He said that it went out on newspaper, but he hasn't received anything about it yet. And then with everything that was going on, it kind of got pushed to the back burner. So I asked about putting it out on Facebook. So I thought it might be a good time to get that information out there to our local nonprofits.
Mhm.
Travis, what
Yeah.
is that deadline for right now for that?
I think it was it May 15th? That seems like,
Is it May 15th? I feel like if it's May 15th, that still gives 5 weeks. The application's not terribly difficult. So, but yeah, if we could get that push out on social media right now, especially with everyone being linked on social media, then
Yep.
that would probably be the best thing for that.
I will post that Monday morning. That's usually a good
Okay.
time for people to see it. Usually it's pretty visible.
Okay, perfect. And then that's all I have.
All right, thank you, Ms. Ross. Next up is our Personnel Committee Chair, Ms. Brown.
We have not met. I'm waiting to see if chief or anybody needs a meeting, but currently I don't see a need for one.
Okay. All right, thank you. And then, excuse me, Communication Commission, it's got Ms. Brown on there again. Did you have anything on that? I'm we haven't had any meetings for a while, so. I know
I think the last thing we met on was Small Town Big Heart, and I know that Leah has been pushing for people to put a sign out on your door or somewhere just visible that, you know, we're still in this together. Small Town Big Heart. We extended the deadline for the high schools, I believe, to try to submit a design, and we're waiting for a formalized, more streamlined, easy to reproduce symbol of that slogan.
okay, so more to be continued on that commission there. So that takes care of all of our administration and committee reports. That brings us to call of members, and Ms. Hollifield, you're up first.
Quick and simple, just stay healthy and stay in.
All right,
That's
thank
it.
you. And Ms. Ross?
Yep, I just agree with Dawn. Just, follow the rules and let's get through this as quick as possible so we can get back to some version of normalcy. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Dunn?
I have nothing at this time. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Brown?
I just want to say, remember to support the small businesses that are open. They're really needing the help now. Also, if you're going through a drive-through, remember that some of these places used to work for tips, so it's always okay to give a couple bucks in the drive-through too. I want to say that I've seen really good reviews of the dairy bar, the Legendary. So let's keep that going and just, stay in this together and be kind to each other, and we'll get through it.
All right, thank you. And Mr. Coogan?
Just let everybody know the 25th of July was our change date for the concert / fireworks festivities. The way it's looking, it may possibly go down, and if it does, I will still ask everybody to do pretty much social distancing, from each other, so that way this doesn't get respread and bounced around and put in a bad place again, because people like me, I have to run around with masks and gloves and all sorts of fun stuff because I have all sorts of underlying health conditions, as does Miss Brown. Anyways, I want to thank everybody in the village for their participation in this and for their patience. This is a very trying period of time. And, this is one of these trying periods that the Lord gives us, to reflect on and to build on towards helping our fellow human. Anyways, that's all I have.
All right, thank you, Mr. Coogan. And Ms. Shepherd, you're next.
Well, this is a time in our lives that, of course, I've never seen anything like it. Now, my dad, who is 96, trapped in Florida a couple of years ago, in one of his, remembrances by the fireplace, he said that in the county where he grew up in Kentucky, he did not know a family that did not lose at least one person in their family to the Spanish flu. So here we go around again. All I can say is please think more beyond just yourself. If you're going out, use your hand sanitizer. Don't be ashamed to wear a mask. You would be amazed at the number of people that have what's considered an underlying medical condition. Just asthma is a really bad one. You can't breathe, you cough, you splutter. This is the worst time of the year you to have anything like that. And just be conscious of, not just yourself, but don't sit around the fireplace in, 75 years and say, I knew some family that had someone that died of this coronavirus. So just please be careful and be conscious and considerate of other people around. And that's it.
All right, thank you, Ms. Shepherd. And next up, we will be doing legislation. We have an ordinance 1936. This is an ordinance for amending the Village of Bethel personnel policy. This is a second reading. And then we have resolution 1046, a resolution consenting to a guardrail replacement project by the Director of Transportation and authorizing the village administrator to enter into any necessary agreements. And this is the first reading.
I can give some input on, that's just that's going to be the guardrails that are adjacent to Bethel Feed area there, that bridge that crosses over the creek. So that's we are responsible for guardrails now inside the village, but this is a project that ODOT is repairing some of the guardrails that aren't up to current code. So we're just entering into an agreement, and they're covering that repair.
Travis, do you need that tonight?
No, this is, they said they just need it by, I think, the third or fourth quarter. So there's plenty of time.
Okay. All right. And then next up is our approval of expenses. So I hope you've looked at those, and if everything looks appropriate there, I'd look for a motion to approve our expenses.
So moved.
Second,
So Ms. Shepherd and Mr. Coogan, is that right?
Yes.
Okay. And Mr. Gilpin, whenever you're ready.
Ms. Hollifield,
Yes.
Ms. Ross,
Yes.
Mr. Dunn,
Yes.
Ms. Brown,
Yes.
Mr. Coogan,
yes.
Ms. Shepherd.
Yes.
Thank you. And next up is payment of the bills.
I move we pay the bills.
I second.
Ms. Hollifield and Mr. Coogan, right?
Yes.
Yes.
All right, Mr. Gilpin, when you're ready.
Ms. Hollifield,
Yes.
Ms. Ross,
Yes.
Mr. Dunn,
Yes.
Ms. Brown,
Yes.
Mr. Coogan,
Yes.
Ms. Shepherd.
Yes.
All right, thank you. And now the adjournment.
Mayor, before we adjourn, I did want to mention one more thing. We have been over the last week flushing hydrants around town. So in case you do see some disturbed water, maybe a little cloudy, we have not had any calls. So that's a good thing. That means that we are flushing often enough that it's not causing much of an issue, but that is going on, and we'll be continuing that over the next couple of weeks.
All right. Thank you very much on that. And I do want to say thank you to everyone for learning together, doing this. And I can't wait to get back in the chambers myself. So I miss it. So I miss being around everybody and getting things done. So, but with that, looking for a motion to adjourn.
I move we adjourn.
I'll
I
second.
All right. Thank you. And all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Bye.
All opposed, same sign. All right. Have a good night.
Thank you. Good night.
So long, everyone.
Right.
Stay
Oh,
healthy.
okay. I guess we're good.
All right.
Not wanting to stop. We're having so much fun.
Mhm. Okay, how do we get out of this? Leave meeting. There we go.